this is Tanya Carey with the Flint Courier News. Today we're talking about redistricting and why redistricting is so important to Flint residents. We'll also talk about how residents can take part in redistricting with a historic first-time ever opportunity. I am joined today by Essence Wilson and Joel Arnold from Communities First, as well as Joan Gustafson from the Michigan Nonprofit Association, who is joining us by phone. Welcome to all of you.
Thanks for having us.
So can one of you first tell me how you've personally seen redistricting affect an individual, a family, or a community in our city?
Speak a little bit for those who know, for a long time Flint's been represented by two state house districts, the 34th and the 49th district, and the way that they were drawn 10 years ago, before we had independent redistricting commissions, it really split a lot of neighborhoods in half and segregated out many of the neighborhoods that had a lot more resources, put them into one district, and then cut off other neighborhoods and put them into a separate district. And what that's happened is it's made it tougher sometimes for neighborhoods to collaborate on getting services from Lansing, improving their outreach to state government, because oftentimes one neighborhood association might have two state representatives, and we've seen those kind of gerrymandered maps that we have right now in Michigan really split Flint neighborhoods in half. So anyone that wants to see, some odd-looking maps can go and look at our current state house maps in Michigan, and we know that sometimes that has made it challenging in the past to address issues and collaborate, because sometimes neighborhoods are represented by two different offices or things like that, and it doesn't really speak as much to what we see now as wanting to keep communities of interest and neighborhoods full, and when we do redistricting.
Now I want to hear more. So Joan, can you tell me a little bit more about Michigan Nonprofit Association and why the organization launched this initiative to help communities better understand this brand new process?
Yes, thank you for having me this afternoon. The Michigan Nonprofit Association is in its 31st year of serving a very large and diverse nonprofit sector here in Michigan. Before the pandemic, there were more than 50,000 nonprofits in Michigan, and that could be anything from a very small volunteer-led organization to a very large anchor institution like a hospital or a university. Michigan Nonprofit Association provides resources and trainings, and we also do advocacy at the federal and state level, and we also run a number of programs to encourage civic and community engagement, and our redistricting program falls into that category. M&A got involved because of our core values of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. There are certain populations in Michigan, such as people of color, immigrant communities, and low-income populations that are often left out of these democratic processes. And this has led to inequality in political power, government funding, and private sector investment for these communities. So that's the reason that M&A is now mobilizing nonprofits. Communities First is one of those, to transparently achieve fair and impartial district maps for Michigan, specifically to promote racial equity so that communities of color have a voice and they're not locked out of these important decision making that occurs at the local, state, and federal level.
Very interesting. Now tell me more about what Communities First is doing to educate the community and encourage them to take part in this process.
Our work with redistricting started as work with voting, right? And so we were funded through the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness a few years ago to engage people that were experiencing homelessness with voting. And then that translated into us doing some census work because of our success there. And now after census work comes redistricting. And so we have done a number of things over the past few months. We have provided some basic education to community groups. We've hosted virtual town hall meetings. We've done some social media work, and also hosted watch parties where we were inviting the community to come online, and while we were watching, they watch as well. We're really excited about the opportunity to engage people, and we're looking forward to an event that we have coming up on Thursday, October 7th. from 6 to 7:30 p.m., where we will have a community meeting about redistricting. We want to ensure that the public has the opportunity and the information necessary to understand not only the process, but also to advocate for fair representation. So that event will be, again, October 7th from 6 to 7:30, and will be at Coolidge Park Apartments in the gymnasium there.
Okay. Now, Joel talked about how redistricting in Michigan used to be decided by those in political power. Can you tell us more about what had to be done so that would change?
Yeah, so back in the day, before the current system, redistricting in Michigan was basically entirely just ran by the state legislature, also known as the people who sit in the districts. And so what would happen in the past, depending on the political party that controlled the state house and the state senate, is they would draw districts designed to shore up their political party, which would be called gerrymandering. So there would be, 10 years ago, Republicans happened to be in charge at the time, so maps were drawn to favor Republican candidates. In Democratic-controlled states like Maryland and Oregon, we've seen the other side of this, where maps are drawn to shore up Democratic candidates, and they're not really done with citizen input. They tend to be done in the past behind closed doors, drawn up by consultants or political operatives for the respective parties to strengthen a specific political party. Now, in 2018, a group called Voters Not Politicians put out, folks might remember it, Proposal 2, which was to implement what's called an Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. This was a ballot initiative, which in Michigan we're fortunate enough to have as basically a way to go around the legislature and put something directly on the ballot for the public to vote on. And in 2018, they put it on the ballot. It got overwhelming support. It wasn't even close to install in our Constitution this Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And so what this commission is now, it is made up of Republicans, Democrats, and independents, requiring the approval of all parties on this, to make maps in a transparent and fair way, not done behind closed doors or to favor any specific political party. And the maps have to keep together, they have standards like partisan fairness, keeping the other communities of interest, and geographic compactness and all these other things to try and make sure that maps actually reflect the needs of their communities, not just what kind of map would most likely get a Democrat from this district or a Republican from this district elected. And so now that's a part of Michigan's Constitution. And the way that this was done was that ordinary groups of citizens got together, went out and collected hundreds of thousands of signatures, got an initiative on the ballot, and then went out and got that approved by the voters at the 2018 election. So this is the first time in Michigan we've ever had this. We're not the first state to do this. Other states like California and Arizona and other places have had these kinds of commissions. But it is something that really for the first time ever, our redistricting is being done in a publicly accessible, transparent, and open way, and not being done behind closed doors. So citizens really for the first time have a lot of real power in making sure that these maps are reflective, keep our communities whole, and respond to the needs of the public, not just the needs of whichever political party is in control at that time.
And I'll also share just quickly that the opportunity to serve on the commission was available to any registered voter in the state of Michigan. And so through an application process, people just filled out this application, and then 13 commissioners were selected. And there are 4 affiliated with the Democratic Party, 4 affiliated with the Republican Party, and then 5 with no major political affiliation. And those individuals, after going through that application process, were actually randomly selected. So again, another attempt to be very fair in the process and give anybody the opportunity to serve on the commission who desired to do so.
Okay, so again, now we literally get to draw a map and tell the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission why our community is so important to be kept together so that we are fairly represented in Lansing and in Washington. So based off the information available, and I know Joan talked about the inequality that does exist, what groups of people have been least likely to take part in the process?
Well, Tanya, it is critically important for all communities and individuals to take part, but it's especially important for populations that have been historically underrepresented, like the ones I mentioned, people of color, the immigrant community, people who English is their second language, or low-income populations. After all, drawing these political maps only happens once every 10 years, and this opportunity isn't going to come around again until 2031. So it's really important that we get it right.
Now, Michigan residents can currently submit, comment on, or suggest voting maps 24/7 online at michigan-mapping.org. Is this easier than it sounds? Please elaborate and tell us how this works.
Yeah, so it is actually quite easy to take part right now, and so there's a couple different ways you can do it. If you go to that state website, michigan-mapping.org, there's an option right on there. You can provide written testimony. You can write up something on your own and submit it. They also have little maps where you can make up your own districting plan. If you have a thought about how you want to see a district drawn, you can do it right on there. They have a great software called Districtor that makes it so that even someone who maybe not be very computer savvy or experienced in doing something like that, it's pretty easy to do it. All you got to do is move your mouse around and click on some shapes, and you can make your own maps. And you can also submit what's called a communities of interest map, and those are, think of them as like groups that we'd want to keep together as a whole. So there's specific type of neighborhood, let's say that's mostly English as a second language, or communities of color, or a city, or even a set of counties that may have historically been always grouped together. You can submit those as what's called communities of interest, and the Redistricting Commission has to take those into account when it's creating its maps. But beyond just going onto the website, michigan-mapping.org, the state has also made it possible for people to submit written comments by the mail. You know, we know not everybody has access to internet, and I think the commission certainly doesn't want to make it so that the only people who have a voice are people that maybe have a good broadband connection. So if anybody is ever interested in submitting something through the mail for a written comment, you can mail that to P.O. Box 30318, Lansing, Michigan, zip code 48909. And that's where you can send it to. The commission will get those as written comments from the public. But even beyond that, they're also doing, so you have these online options, you can go to michigan-mapping.org, written options where you can do that P.O. box, but also they're doing town halls around the state. In particular for us here in Flint, the commission is going to be doing a public meeting on October the 26th at the Dort Event Center over on the east side off Lapeer Road. And that's going to be in two sessions, one from 1:30 to 3:30 and one from 5 to 8. So October 26th, 1:30 to 3:30, 5 to 8 at the Dort Event Center. And that's going to be an opportunity for the public to also see the commission working in person right here in our community to craft maps about how we're going to be represented over the next 10 years.
Now, from Detroit to Grand Rapids to Flint, people need to show up at the public hearings to make their voices heard. Is there anything that any of you want to say in closing?
So I would share that in addition to going online or showing up at a public hearing, people can certainly reach out to Communities First if there's questions that they might have. The phone number to reach us would be 810-422-5358, and I'm going to give you Joel's extension, which is 1007. So people, if they have questions or they have ideas or they have thoughts, certainly reach out to us. The other thing I would also add is that the commission meets several times a week. It seems like their meeting, it feels like almost daily, in all honesty, and they meet for long hours. There are replays available on YouTube, so you can go to MICRC on YouTube and you can see all of the commission's meetings. They are public and open for anyone to see. They also live stream their meetings in real time on YouTube. If you would like to sign up to get meeting notices and updates, you can go to michigan.gov/MICRC, and that is also the same location where you can find all of the commission's information. You can see those draft maps. You can create your own draft maps. You can provide public comment actually through their website. So any of those written comments that come in, they do get read at the commission meeting and they become part of the public record.
I want to thank our guest for coming today and for providing such valuable information, and thank all of you for tuning in. For the Flint Courier News, I'm Tanya Terry.